My name's Ali Shahid. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Our Place. We are operating out of 4 warehouses with Shabab in the United States. We have 1 node in Australia, and we are currently in the process of moving our Canadian warehouse to Shabab as well. The operations team is incredibly lean. We frequently have departments that have single people managing an entire function. So fulfillment, as an example of that, has 1 person who manages fulfillment end-to-end across 7 warehouses. We were looking for great operational capabilities with a fulfillment partner, and we needed great technical capabilities. We also needed a network of warehouses in the United States. We had realized that by expanding to 4 warehouses, we would save over $1.5 million in outbound freight costs. Our items are very giftable, which means that each day that we can ship out to a customer prior to a major holiday, that ends up being over $500,000 of revenue per day for us. So being closer to our customers wasn't just a great customer experience, it was great for us financially to be able to push out our drop dead ship dates. 2024, we should be shipping out over 1 million parcels out of the Shabab network. The global scale of Shabab's network allows us to go to multiple markets without taking on additional technology costs. I think it's incredibly important to have both direct-to-consumer and B2B handled by the same partner. Managing 2 pools of inventory, one for direct-to-consumer and one for wholesale, is difficult. With Shabab, we're able to cater to our direct-to-consumer customers across the warehouse network that we have, as well as cater to our B2B customers. So Nordstrom, Target, Bloomingdale's, Saks, so direct vendor shipment business as well as B2B wholesale are both managed by Shabab. The importance of a unified technology stack across a warehouse network is immense. The integration between a merchant and their fulfillment partner is getting very deep. The most important metrics to us, firstly, SLAs for fulfillment. How many days does it take a warehouse to fulfill an order? 0.5 days is what we average with Shabab. The second metric is what is the transit time of that parcel? And that for us at this point in time is 2 days. So within 2 business days, we can get a parcel from one of our Shabab warehouses to a customer. The only other driver that we need to worry about is, are our parcels being optimally packaged on their way out? A warehouse worker not only knows which items they have to pick and which box it goes into, but they can see a GIF that tells them exactly how to position the items to optimally place them inside that box. So that is the level of intelligence that Shabab has given everyone warehouse side from a technology perspective. And that is 1 out of 100 examples that I could give you of very small innovations that have allowed us to scale operationally. From a technology perspective, it makes it so easy for us to pass the order through to Shabab, and Shabab will route the order to the warehouse that is closest to the customer. And we receive a notification back saying Shabab has decided to ship out of this particular warehouse. So that way there are no discrepancies between inventory. Going to 4 warehouses has been very, very easy. From a technology perspective, we've built technology that tells us where inventory is needed across our network. So what that allows us to do is get allocation of inventory right. Allocation of inventory ends up being the greatest driver of our outbound shipping cost, driver that we can control. And with Shabab, that's a breeze.
Hello and welcome everyone to Peak Prep Unpacked, a panel talking about optimizing operations for holiday fulfillment. My name's Francesca. I'm a senior partner manager here at Shabab. I'm joined today by special guests from Our Place who had amazing Black Friday, Cyber Monday last year, and since then I know have made a ton of updates to their supply chain, including enabling Shabab's distributed inventory strategy. We're also joined by our partners Anvyl and Pretty Damn Quick, who are going to talk about real insights and actionable tips to make sure your supply chain is set up for success this holiday season. So with that, I'll let our speakers introduce themselves and their company. Terry, why don't you kick it off for us?
Hi, my name is Terry. I'm from Our Place, who makes the perfect pants for everyone. I'm the supply chain manager who handles all the product flowing in from manufacturer to our warehouse.
Great, thanks, Terry. Peter?
Peter, I head up the CS team over here at Anvyl. We're a purchase order management platform. We're helping consumer brands grow their brands, optimize their supply chain process, and we focus pretty much from purchase order issuance through warehouse delivery.
Thanks for joining us, Peter. Avi?
Yeah, we're with Pretty Damn Quick. Uniquely offer segmentation on the product page and checkout, so you can treat different customers differently, different cohorts of customers differently, first timers, returning customers, etc. All with A/B testing within the checkout itself. So not just A/B testing shipping options, but also the new checkout extensibility and all the options that come with it.
Great. Thanks everyone for introducing yourself. So we have the full supply chain here from checkout, even before checking out, to your supplier relationships, fulfillment, and then we got a brand actually on board. So with that, let's jump into our first question. So our first question is, when it comes to holiday sales, how do you balance having the right amount of stock on hand to meet demand without overstocking? What tools do you find most effective to avoid stockouts or ordering too much inventory? Terry, why don't you kick us off?
Well, I can summarize that into a few points. First one will be demand forecasting. We use historical sales data, market trends, and any promotional activities to forecast demand accurately. This helps in determining the right amount of inventory we needed. And also safety stock is very important because it maintains maintaining the right safety stock. We can buffer against unexpected demand spike or any supply chain disruptions. This ensure we can meet the demand without any stock out. And supplier relationship is also important. We have built a strong relationship with our supplier to ensure deliver goods when we need it. And also sometimes our supplier is willing to research certain raw materials and components that require long production lead times. This will help us to minimize the production lead times when we place any urgent orders. And also it is important for supplier and forwarder to prioritize our urgent orders to avoid any delays. And the next one is just-in-time inventory. If we can implement just-in-time principles to reduce excess inventory by delivering goods only when we need it. This will minimize the warehouse storage fees. And having a strong relationship with supplier is also very important because sometimes some suppliers willing to hold excess inventory at their warehouse for a short period of times, and they will ship it when we need it. But that only applies to a reasonable amount of goods, and that we only do that during the peak seasons. And also continue monitor and adjustments. Regularly monitor inventory levels and sales data during the holiday seasons. We have to adjust forecasts and reorders based on real-time insights. Inventory audit. Conduct periodic inventory audits and identify the discrepancy and optimize the stock levels. If we can do all of above, we will eliminate the risk of overstocking or stock outs.
Great. Thanks, Terry. I have a lot to add to that, but I think you touched on planning for inventory and talking to suppliers. So I want Peter to jump in and talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think through a lot of what Terry was mentioning, the kind of like common thread through a lot of that is being able to dig into a lot of your data. I think where you get those insights as far as, you know, how much safety stock you're going to hold, how much time you need to prep for this type of endeavor. What you can really do is start looking at the data of your historic ordering. So you can look at things from last year, even projections from the first half of the year. You just want to make sure you're feeling super tight and confident about things like your lead time projections, your supplier performance, which ones have been performing well as of late versus not. Better yet, if it's possible, you can even look at similar types of products or maybe even the same products from last year and just get a sense for how they performed and what your times were around this exact time of year. It's nothing better than just comparing reality to expectation here. And so as early as we can get started, honestly, we're talking in July, so I'd say pretty close to around now, we can start diving into some of these data sets and give ourselves enough time for, you know, quality control, delays, booking, etc. So start early, dive into the data, and you can get a lot of what Terry was talking about there.
And what I would say is in terms of preparation, I think we all know if there's anything about logistics, there's always going to be exceptions. So planning is going to get you a good part of the way there. But the reality is as soon as the weekend begins or traffic starts building and customers start coming, the reality on the ground is going to be different. So we recommend dynamically updating the options on the product display page and within checkout to accurately reflect the current inventory available, where it's available. So your shipping options will present what is realistically going to get to the customer based on where the inventory is currently located, and keep updated with the real-time capabilities for fulfillment and shipping so that it's continually reflecting the real-time reality on the ground. So definitely preparation is critical. And then in real time, give yourself the tools necessary to help you communicate whatever's actually happening. And when those exceptions happen, make sure that the customer's aware proactively.
I totally agree with that. I feel like there's data that we have, but maybe Anvyl's data will probably be a little bit more thorough on preparing for what inventory you need, the different levels, what SKUs were more popular. But with Obvious saying, we also have the ability in real time. If you have a warehouse management system or an order management system that's in real time, I think that can also avoid stockouts or just making sure inventory levels are up to date in real time. And you can set that filter coming from your different channels to be like quite fast, like 30 minutes, but you can also reduce it to less time if you want to keep super accurate. So for fulfillment perspective, I think all this loops together of just making sure you have something managing your warehouse and considering like, are you using a 3PL, or if you're self-fulfilling, like what warehouse management system do you have or order management system, and just making sure that it is giving you this stuff in real time and can communicate with the website. So the features on Pretty Damn Quick can also work efficiently. So great way to start it off, everyone. And then going into the next question, what can operators do to manage operational costs efficiently? So Terry, you'll start this off because you're the one operator brand on this call. So you've talked about having a 2-person operations team. How has partnering with ShipBob, Anvyl, and other tech partners impacted your team in this way?
So at the beginning of the company, we only have 2 persons in my supply chain teams. So we were working off Google Sheets, and we spent a lot of time on Google Sheet. The only goal that we had was deliver goods on time in full. Having partnered with the right supply, with the right partners like ShipBob, Anvyl, and others, it helped us to monitor productions and deliver schedules at a more efficient levels. So it allowed us to spend more time in production schedule with the manufacturers, and we can optimize the cost, and that will help us to manufacture and deliver goods in a more efficient way. And also with Anvyl, we can pull order summary for each supplier, and also we can look at suppliers' performance. We can review with them annually to see what we can do for next year. Like how we can improve for next year. Like something we can do better next year.
Yeah, Peter, why don't you go next?
Sure. You'll probably hear me say this a lot during this webinar, but starting early, giving yourself the time to prepare is really the name of the game here. Locking in shipping capacity and rates as early as possible. We've seen that 66% of brands lock in rates normally around July and August. Gives you a sense of time when people start thinking about this information. So the sooner you guys can get started, the sooner you have more time to essentially account for any sort of hiccups or issues that arise along the way. On top of that, thank you for everything Terry mentioned there. I'd say you can use systems like Anvyl or data-driven systems to really just be constantly doing that analysis. So doing regular cost analysis, understanding how suppliers have performed with similar types of products in similar times. These types of conversations also help build supplier relationship over time as well. So you're setting proper expectations, you're using data versus emotion. And it's just setting you off on a better foot as you kick off this critical time with your suppliers and vendors.
Yeah, and then what I would just add to that in terms of trying to save, shipping, as we know, is a very significant part of the overall cost of running an e-commerce operation. So, for example, using live rates to set your shipping prices to ensure that you're covering your costs and potentially making money on shipping. Optimize your cost and shipping savings by offering faster delivery, especially in situations like what Terry described, where the inventory is distributed in a way that it's closer to the customer, so you can actually charge for faster delivery, but be able to use a lower cost option for delivery. Communicate that faster speed with customers, because speed does positively impact sales conversion. Having a tight integration with your 3PL allows you to communicate accurate delivery promises and maximize the window for upselling the customer until the very last moment, which increases your average order value. And you can also add options like buy now, ship later to reduce some of the congestion, some of the noise in your operations and support, to allow orders to be processed today, but actually shipped later in a week or so, once the volume and the overall traffic reduces to a more manageable number.
Avi, I like what you said there about making money on shipments, because I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about shipping, like I have an eBay store, I sell stuff, but like I'm always including, like making sure that it's included, so it doesn't feed into my cost of my profit margin. So it's interesting for you to talk about actually making money on shipping, especially when you've distributed inventory, because that was also, to echo what you and Terry said, is something that we suggest to operators to do, is distribute inventory if it's available, just to reduce the cost as well as transit time. But I haven't seen anybody use that and then say, hey, I'm still going to charge the same price of shipping I was, to make sure that I'm not eating into my cost. Because I think this also goes into, what if something happens, carriers aren't picking up. This happened during the pandemic, where major carriers weren't picking up, and we actually had to expedite everybody's orders and upgrade them. And that came out of ShipBob's pocket. And I guess that was just a different time because it was during the pandemic. But I guess the strategy you're talking about could help in that way, just in case there is an operational congestion and you need to upgrade shipping options on orders that have already been picked and packed, so they get to the end customer. So really cool to see that that's an option. I didn't even know you guys could do that. And I'll just echo what Terry said about expanding your network. Of course, if you have a 3PL, that's probably easier said than done if they have extra locations. So if you have a 3PL that has more locations, they should be able to run an analysis for you, or the technology they use should have this information on hand to figure out where you should place inventory and how much of each level. If you don't have a 3PL that has another location, you can add an additional 3PL or go find a 3PL that has multiple locations. And then if you're a self-fulfiller, you're probably saying, like, I can't add a fulfillment center before the end of the year. If this is the case and you feel like this is a blocker for you, reach out after we reach out, like respond back to the email when we reach out, because we can supply options. Because yes, I think that's the hardest thing of, like, it's great to say, like, let's put inventory closer to more customers. But realistically, I know some of the people on this call might say, like, that's not something I can do before October, when the cutoffs are with my 3PL. But there's a lot of options, and just, I would say, probe with your 3PL to see if you can move inventory over there before the holiday season, or explore other options. So great answers, everybody. I feel like those were actually actionable tips that people can take with them. And with that, we'll go to the next question. What have you learned from past holiday seasons that have helped you improve your operations while increasing holiday sales? Terry, kick this off for us. I think we're super eager to hear what you have to say. Oh, you're on mute as well.
So sorry. So during the holiday, freight capacity is always tight. So it was difficult for us to put any container at a reasonable price. To avoid this, we have partnered with additional forwarders and have our supplier to make booking a few weeks in advance to secure the shipment. Also, we work closely with fulfillment team with container delivery schedules, because during the holiday seasons, fulfillment is shipping hundreds of thousands of packages every day. They have very limited capacity for implants or any other task. We don't want to have any stock out, because consumer tend to cancel back orders within days. This will definitely hurt our sales.
Yeah, I think one thing that Terry mentioned that's really great is being able to stay tight with, like, your fulfillment team and a lot of the other teams that you're working with. I think comms around this period of time become increasingly important. They're always important, but just more so, obviously, when we're working on some really tight schedules here. I think furthermore, as much as you're able to kind of compare real versus expectation, it's going to give you a better forecast as far as how this is going to go. I think everyone's got a number on a spreadsheet that they're saying this is what we realistically or ideally think will happen. But as much as we can educate some of those numbers and compare them with reality, assuming this isn't like your first holiday season going around, then you probably got some past data that you can look at, do some real-time comparisons, understand in relation to how things have been performing lately, to sort of end at a rounded number and forecast that's going to give you a better picture of how things will go.
That's great. And just going back, Francesca, to what you had mentioned earlier in terms of that scary place to be of making a promise to the customer, which is, brands are usually afraid of making too aggressive a delivery promise, so they back off, especially going into BFCM. They'll start making the dates much longer for delivery, and that can have a material impact on conversion. Because as we know from the experience this past week of Amazon, people are interested in having a reliable delivery promise. So making as aggressive a promise as you can make, but also knowing that there may be exceptions. So having the inventory distributed lets you make a more aggressive promise using some of the techniques that was mentioned earlier. But at the same time, you need to be able to continually update the customer on the delivery status. And if you have an accurate delivery promise being presented on the product display page and in checkout, it makes it a lot easier to maintain that promise and update the customer that I know I promised you on this date. And if there's a delay, you're able to use the major support platforms today by having your tracking software integrated with support and email to proactively notify the customer that the order may be delayed. So even if your promise isn't 100% on time, having the ability to proactively communicate with the customer, you'll be amazed at how it changes the volume of support tickets you get, the long-term value of the customer retention, and all those other important things that come with making an accurate delivery promise and living up to it.
I can say from experience as a customer that if an order is not fulfilled within a certain amount of time that I deem as I would expect this just because I work in logistics, I do get worried about the legitimacy of the brand if I've never ordered from it before, or if I'm going to order from it again, or if I'm going to cancel my order. So I think what you said about giving realistic expectations, but also communication is very important, especially during the holiday seasons where most people are taking on a customer for the first time. I'm someone that waits. If I'm summer's here and I want something that's a little higher price, maybe it's not like an everyday thing necessity, I am waiting to Black Friday, Cyber Monday to try it out because I know there's going to be the best deals. I know they're going to throw free gifts in, or there's going to be stuff like that. So I think everything that you said is super important, because that is the first touch with your customer. Is we haven't even shipped it to you yet. It hasn't even been delivered. We're just communicating. And like you said, utilizing those different tech partners that can communicate through customer service, through their customer service team, or in real time giving fulfillment or tracking information by SMS or email, or making it a custom branded page is always great. And something to add to that as well is I talked about it in the last question about, or the last question I answered about a carrier mix and turning off carriers. So from past holiday seasons, when you don't know what you don't know, like I don't think anyone knew that the holiday season was going to be as crazy. It was the first year of the pandemic, how much of influx of orders there was going to be. We really learned about staffing. And so if you have your own fulfillment center, just figuring out getting additional hands, hiring temporary staff, or getting consultant for that, or finding someone that can staff for you, but also looking at your carrier mix. This is very important. So having the ability to have national carriers as well as regional carriers. Regional carriers are less busy because most people are going through the major postal carriers because they're selling stuff on eBay all the time, or they're just shipping something to their friend or to a family member. So if you have the ability to add regional carriers, if you have your own fulfillment center, that is amazing. If you're using a 3PL, evaluating how many different carriers do they have, and can I turn on and turn off carriers during peak season times, or times that I see that maybe a carrier's performance isn't up to par. And your order management system and warehouse management system, whatever you're using, if it's by yourself in your own fulfillment center or you have a 3PL should be giving you this information. Like you should be seeing time to fulfill, which is on the 3PL and on your team if you self-fulfill, but also the time to deliver is very important as well. And you can break this down by carrier usually, or ask your fulfillment partner to give you suggestions or look into data from last year. Again, you should have a platform that gives you this information in real time. If not, you can go to your partner and ask for this data. But having the ability to have regional carriers and turn off major carriers is what we did during when a major carrier wasn't picking up. Well, we had to expedite those orders already being picked up, but then we turned the carrier off and we just utilize regional carriers. And it can also reduce the cost, especially if you have distributed inventory. You're using a regional carrier in that area. Like it's not even, at least our technology is not even going to pull a major carrier because most of the time it's going to be fast. They're not congested and it's going to be cheaper because they're local to the area. So I would say that is on the operational side, what I would look at. So again, asking your 3PL if they have these abilities, or if you have the time now, if you're self-fulfilling to add more carriers in the mix, or find a solution where you could get more carriers added to your WMS if you're self-fulfilling. Great answers, everybody. And so next question, what advice would you give to brand operators who are new to managing holiday fulfillment? Terry, we're going to kick it off with you again.
Okay. We don't plan to fail, but fail to plan. Planning ahead is critical for holiday fulfillment. Working with planning teams ahead of time to secure production space with our manufacturers. And also it's important to plan ahead with forwarder, like how much container we're shipping out in the months. And monitoring sales data and automate inventory with our fulfillment teams is important. And also leveraging marketing strategy with marketing teams is also one way to be success. So at the end of the day, I think it's all about teamwork and communication across all the departments. It's not a one department job to get this job done.
Yeah, I love what Terry essentially said, which is basically that it's not a matter of if something's going to come up, it's more a matter of when. And so I think being flexible, being able to pivot quickly is always going to be the name of the game here. I also think, we've been talking a lot about using historic data from the systems and the tech stack that you have, but also making sure that this ecosystem and tech stack you have is communicating with each other. So whether that's actually through some sort of integration or you just have a good process for combining these data sets, Terry mentioned it's kind of a whole team effort. And so it's not just going to be one siloed team doing something that doesn't impact another. And so as much as we can kind of get this information together, the better. Hopefully you have some systems that can do a lot of this for you. I think if you have the right tech stack working for you, you can work with these lean and mean teams like Terry has to really do a lot of this heavy lifting. So you're not scrambling and doing a lot of brute force work when you can do it somewhere else.
Yeah, and I guess picking up on where Peter left off in terms of data, having a system that actually has all the data beginning on the product page and integrates ideally with your 3PL so you can have full visibility all the way through the point of delivery means that you can formulate a delivery promise that's going to be accurate and aggressive. And I guess as a follow-up, Francesca, to what you were saying, I saw a statistic that 50% of support tickets that come in on the same date or the day after the order is placed. And the majority of those are Wismo tickets. Where's my order? Which is crazy, right? No one reasonably expects the order to already be there same day or next day, right? But it just tells you how confusing some checkout options are in presenting. And you can open up any checkout randomly and you'll see what I mean, where first option is 1 to 3 days, second option is 2 to 4 days, third option is 2 to 5 days. And by the time you're done, you say, I don't even know what to choose. So let me go find this somewhere else that's communicating it effectively. So combining the data to be able to formulate an accurate and aggressive delivery promise on delivery and checkout. And the second element, which I think is relatively new with, especially in Shopify with their new checkout extensibility, is you can actually improve conversion on checkout by leveraging customer segmentation and running A/B tests in checkout itself, both with shipping and shipping rates and shipping pricing to different customers, first-time customers, returning, and so on, and using some of the new extensibility features to offer priority processing and a bunch of other features that really enhance the overall customer experience.
I will say again, from a customer point of view, just because I shop so much online, I feel like I have so many follow-ups for you, Avi. If I don't see a second ship option and it's just like free shipping, like I kind of get annoyed sometimes because you're like, well, what if I need this right away? Because a lot of times too, yes, we're talking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but a lot of people might be ordering something going out of town, or they might be ordering a gift. So I love that you're talking about different options and making it less confusing, because I have gone from a brand's website, and because the shipping options were very confusing, and I actually went to like a marketplace I never shopped for before because they gave me the estimated delivery date. It was fast. They gave me the exact date. It was actually on time, and I think it just came from that brand's like fulfillment center or like wherever they're fulfilling out of, which made me feel bad because I'm like, of course I want to shop from the brand's website and I'll do that next time. I was just in a rush, but like you're talking about, convenience drives all. Everyone expects things to be already shipped out, or for them to already have a notification the same day as they order, just because Amazon tells you they can deliver same day if you order within a couple of hours. So it's just keeping up with the expectations, because customers will shop other places. And to follow up with that, I guess from a fulfillment point of view of like when someone's new to managing holiday fulfillment, what should they do, is kind of echoing what we've talked about already of communicating if there's disruptions, and using that effectively and making sure that's on your website, making sure you're doing email outreach, making sure customer service is just auto saying that to anybody that might reach out if there is an issue, and working with a fulfillment partner, or if you're self-fulfilling, just making sure you identify the issue as soon as possible, or your fulfillment partner has relayed this information to you in real time, and making sure you're telling your customer what's going on, giving them an idea. Is there like a act of God weather impact that happens a lot during the holidays on the East Coast, and just giving them a little bit of color and then communicating that with them. And then maybe even giving them an incentive of like, hey, the order could be delayed. Here's an additional 10% off, or you get a free gift now for doing this. And like Avi said, there's a lot of tech partners that are all connected or can connect to your fulfillment partner, or just other data that can be pulled from the carrier. So you can send this in an automated tracking update, or you could just send an automated or a manual tracking page that you just created because of the issue. So I think communication is key. And that's kind of what we've been talking about here today, is everyone on the team communicating, and then just communicating with your customer in real time. And then to round it out, last question we have is, can you guys share any insights or trends you've noticed in consumer behavior or just supply chain behavior during the holiday seasons that have impacted operations? Terry, start us off.
So many consumers start holiday shopping early. We should definitely prepare sufficient inventory to support early sale as well. We should prepare marketing strategy to capture those sales. And for last minute shoppers, we need to ensure that all of our warehouse from the East Coast to the West Coast, they have a sufficient stock to ship with a reasonable cost. And sometimes they need like overnight shippings. We definitely don't want to ship from the East to the West. That would cost a lot, and it would definitely hurt ourselves.
Yeah, I think on the Anvyl side, this is more of like an operational insight, if you will. And I think one thing that a lot of people underplay generally across the year, but specifically around this time, is really doubling down on this building relationships with your suppliers. You know, your suppliers and vendors are preparing for holiday season just like you are. And so keeping a high level of communication, making sure you're staying front of mind for them and staying tight with the contacts that are supporting you there, it's going to allow you to sniff out some of these issues as early as possible. We're all about traceability, high communication, pretty much everything we've been speaking about this whole webinar. And so really viewing these relationships with your vendors as an actual partnership, as you grow with them, as they're growing with you, it's going to provide this higher level of trust and benefit. And this is going to prove beneficial to you, you know, past holiday season as well. And so really keeping a tight team that includes your vendors, who are obviously a critical part of this process. It's going to help you now, it'll help you later, but it'll continue to help you as you grow with them and they grow with you.
Avi, you're muted. I do it all the time.
Takes practice. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I'd say one big insight or trend looking at last year to this year, unfortunately, it's not a new trend. It's a continuing trend of shipping prices continually increasing. USPS just made a major increase announcement, and typically other carriers follow. So there isn't a lot to do, right? Because generally you're going to see the rates going up, but there is a lot you can do. First off, shipping by itself, understanding your shipping costs and being able to charge your customers an accurate amount, so that especially during surcharges, and there's so many layers of costs that until you get your bills, you don't understand them, making sure that you're covering those costs and you're charging your customers an accurate amount. That doesn't even take into consideration free shipping, which so many brands do in a blanket way across all their customers, not really understanding that it's not necessary. And there's definitely a growing trend of customers who understand that there's some cost to shipping, whether it's built into the product, they're going to be paying for it somewhere. So not just giving free shipping to everybody, but looking at your segments differently. Maybe a first-time customer, give them the incentive of free shipping, discounted shipping, maybe even discounted expedited shipping if it's going to help get them over the finish line. Those are things that you're able to do through A/B testing. And similarly with the pricing that you're charging on the shipping and the options that you're offering, you're able to come up with the right mix of shipping options to at least mitigate the loss. And in most cases, you're going to find that you can even cover and potentially make money using some of the techniques I mentioned earlier by using the distributed inventory to provide expedited delivery, bill for expedited delivery, but find alternative cheaper options and still have it delivered as promised.
I think everyone touched on some great strategies, and we really echoed a lot of what each other said. And I'm echoing again what Peter said about having great relationships with your partners. You should look at your whole supply chain as a partner and not a service provider. That's how we work on relationships with our customers, because we know we're a main part of their business being fulfillment. And I think what I've learned from being at ShipBob almost 6 years and seeing 5 peaks so far is that expect the unexpected. I think we talked about that a lot. And there's a lot of things that you can't prepare for. And I think that's what I've seen in consumer behavior as well as operational behavior of, like, last year, we just had a brand talk about that they didn't expect there to be an Amazon sale so close to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And thank goodness that they had stock, and they would have ran out of stock if they didn't have it. And so I think every year's really changed the trend. There's been things that have happened, world events that have happened, but every year the trends and just what's happened has been changing. So I'd say just expect the unexpected, stay very tight with your partners, and just make sure you're making communications with them if things are happening or if you need to order more stock. Again, I'm not a person that deals with inventory, so I don't know how fast you could get inventory, but these are all things to consider because consumer behavior is very driven by price. It's, especially in this economy, it's very driven by convenience as well as speed. And I think that those 3 things are always going to influence what a customer does. So it's not going to be that they're always going to shop your Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale day one. It could be that they get a paycheck maybe the next week and they actually want to buy it that week, and they want to make sure that you have a whole week of sales. I even have bought stuff like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then they text me like, we actually have a bigger sale and free stuff. It's like 5 days later. And I'm like, okay, that's great for other customers, but I just something. But I think that brand really thought about that customers are going to shop for so many different reasons. And even if it's like a product that you could buy for someone, like the way that they shop, when they shop, and just the timing or like when they need it by is always going to be relative to the customer. And we've really gotten into a convenience focused society of everything's delivered to you. Like, we just ordered food last night and like it wasn't even that far, like a 10-minute drive, and we had it delivered by Uber Eats. And so I think just taking your consumer brain into your business and just thinking about what are consumers going to do, you don't really know what they're going to do, but it's always driven by those 3 things, and considering that for the next year, because again, we are planning based on what we did last year, the data from last year using Anvyl, ShipBob, and other resources, but you don't really know what's going to happen. So just taking that into account and just communicating with your customers as well. I've seen a lot of brands like ask people using quizzes or just feedback of like about the product, like what would they like to see, like what type of sale would they like to see, or like do they even want a sale or an incentive, or do they want a gift or stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of things you can do to gauge the consumer. But expect the unexpected is what I've learned from ShipBob, because every Q4 has been a little bit different for us. And so with that, I think that's all the questions that we have. Thank you so much to Terry, Peter, and Avi for joining us. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We're going to follow up with an email with the recording. It's going to come from me or someone from the ShipBob team. So if you want to get in touch with Avi or Peter, reply back to that email. And if you want to learn more about Our Place, go to ourplace.com. We also have a case study with them on our website, so you can learn more about what they did with supply chain to create operational efficiencies. But again, thank you everyone so much. Reach out if you need anything with help with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and we'll see you in the next panel. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.